A dusty twilight dream. When she saw him, she stared at him, and it was love. Not that he knew it. The bar had a dusty feeling to it, and the light inside was like the light of a long twilight. Abigail stared through that light as if peering through a childhood memory. She had dreamed of this gritty-looking man, hadn't she? He looked to be alone and tortured, but inside was a good man trying to get out. His black hair was like a raven's feathers. His skin was worn and colored from the sun, and some dark hairs grew on his arms. He drank a twilight-colored whiskey, and she stared. Abigail, who never comes to a place like this alone, did come alone tonight, from a strong intuition that only some women profess to have. She kept both hands around her drink, more for security, for keeping her from floating in the air, than for wanting to drink its contents. How was it supposed to happen? She tried to remember her dream, or was it a memory of a daydream? He wouldn't approach her, she knew that much. She was going to have to get up and talk to him. She'd go up to the bar, where he was sitting, from the table, where she was sitting, because the waitress wasn't coming to take her next drink order. And when she waited for a drink from the bartender, she'd say some clever quip to her loner, her tortured love. They'd exchange names and pleasantries and end up talking all night and discovering that they've been living parallel lives. And that's why their lives have never intersected until now. Parallel lines never intersect. But, by fate and providence, this night was going to be a turning point and a cosmic meeting. That's how it is supposed to go. But Abigail's petite frame was firmly anchored to her chair. Come on, she told herself. Her knees shook as she tried to stand up. So she sat back down again. She stared at her drink, clear as water, but potent as poison. She downed it and stood up again, this time with strength in her thin legs. I need to order another one, she said under her breath. She walked up to the bar, stood next to the tortured soul who would be hers, held her glass up to the bartender and said, "One more." The bartender, with the bushy mustache weighing down his upper lip, stared back at her. "Please," she said, coming right up, and the mustache now seemed to hide a smile. "Good drinks here," Abigail said to the tortured soul. "So they say," he said. "I don't taste them with my tongue. I taste them with my soul." And that was more profound than anything Abigail could have imagined. She couldn't even imagine what she should say next. So she just sort of giggled. "Yummy," came out of her mouth. And the man answered that with a grunt. "What do you do?" The line was so cliche that Abigail winced after she said it. "Do? I don't do anything. That's why I'm at this bar drinking my miseries away." And the bartender handed Abigail her drink. "But don't mind me," the tortured soul said. "Go on and enjoy your drink." "Do you mind if I sit here?" Abigail pointed to the seat next to the tortured soul. My name is Abigail." "Go right ahead," he said, but didn't give his name. "Don't forget to pay the bartender." "The name's Stephen," the bartender said. Abigail paid, told Stephen to keep the change, and then sat next to the tortured soul, Mr. No Name. The dream looked different from up here. She was no longer an observer, but rather a participant. The twilight held its permanent state. The bar itself was as solid as reality, and she could smell Mr. Tortured Soul's masculinity. "Are you from around here?" Abigail asked. "Aren't we all?" said the tortured soul. "You have a peculiar way of answering questions." "Bad habit." He took a drink. "But then again, I tend not to talk to people for a reason." "Are you saying I shouldn't be talking to you?" He stared at her with cold eyes that were masking immense pain, she was sure. He moved his closed mouth to one side as if half smiling and holding back his thoughts at the same time. He said nothing. He stared down at his drink that was sitting on the bar. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Abigail was supposed to have this dream come true by the end of the night. Dreams come true. But what if it's a dream you just made up to make sense of the situation you were in? Shut up, Abigail said, and then slapped her hand over her mouth. Was that out loud? Yes, it was, the tortured soul said. If you wanted me to shut up, why'd you sit next to me? I didn't mean you. I was talking to the voice in my head. Well, the tortured soul said, make sure to call a cab home. He got up, left some cash on the bar, and began walking out. Night, Stephen. Abigail watched him walk out of the bar. There was an immense darkness out there in the night, just beyond the front door, and she sighed. I should have stayed home tonight. When it came time for Abigail to go home, she assured Stephen that she was sober enough to drive. I ain't your daddy, Stephen said. It was dark as she drove. Her headlights created their own sort of twilight, and the headlights pushed away the darkness. But oh, that darkness was so immense.